to another exciting Latitude live stream. We're excited today to talk a little bit about the voyage creation process and are joined by Benjamin, who's one of our resident experts in that. The plan is that this is going to be a series. The thought right now is it'll be a 3 episode series where we talk about um, creating with Voyage and some of the different tools available, but also the creative process that goes into making a world and talking through that. So, I think part of this, is certainly going to be Benjamin walking through things. It'll be a little. My hope is it's actually a little bit messy and raw, and hopefully, we
Yeah, it will be for sure.
make some mistakes and like, oh, maybe we should undo this because that's really just that's. I mean, we're trying to do this as, we would. I think, walking through building a world. Um, as a creator, and that's kind of the process. Is there's a lot of iteration and trial and error, and um, we're gonna go through that as well. So I'll kick things over to you, Benjamin. I'll just let people know that, like, if you want to ask questions or see things in the process that you don't understand, you want us to articulate in more detail, let us know in the comments. We'll be sure to cover it.
Okay, thanks, Devin. So, if anybody watched the last video me and Michael did where we made a world, we were using a set of world generation tools, and then this time we're going to use a new tool. So, this one is still experimental, so this is going to be like the first time seeing it. But it should be released in the next week or two. So by the time the series is done, people will be able to use it. So you'll be able to see this one is a lot more powerful. And I'm just gonna start from scratch and do this as if I was like making my own world, so people can see like all the steps that I go through. So generally I would say if you're making a world, there's 3 steps you need to go through. So the first one is planning, and then the second would be actually building all of the different things, so like taking all of your ideas and getting it on paper. And then the third step is you're gonna test it and find the bugs and polish it. So we're gonna try to do one video for each session. So this time it's mostly gonna be planning. And one of the really good benefits of this new tool, like the reason that I'm using it right now, even though it's not totally done yet, is that it's really good for planning. So I'll show you some of the ways that it can help you like visualize the idea that you're trying to come up with before you ever have to like actually type any kind of like code or anything like that. It's got a lot of like really useful tools that just make it easy to understand what's going on. So we have a world already in Voyage called Larian, and this is like our main, like most popular world, and it's kind of like a medieval fantasy adventure sort of thing. And one of the results of that is that we have this really well-crafted world, and it's got a lot of detail in it. And all of the official content we make it available to the public. So we have a feature that we call Remix. So you can take our world and you can open it up and you can look through all the different parts of it and you can copy stuff out of it. So if you like the way that we handle our skill system or travel or whatever, like you can take that and copy it for yourself. So the end result of that is that we have Larian, which is a really popular world, and then we have a bunch of other worlds that are similar to Larian. And so what we're trying to do now is branch out and make some different stuff and show off what we can make with the engine that will feel different and play differently. So I have a couple different worlds that I'm like have in mind right now that I'm working on. So you'll have to bear with me today. I spent like most of the day yesterday working on like this really cozy like dating simulator thing. And then today we're gonna make a world where you're like crawling through dungeons in hell and fighting demons. So it's gonna be a little change of pace. But I'm gonna go through all the different mechanics and show not just how to make a world that's in a different setting, but how to make a world that actually plays differently. Like the world I was working on yesterday, it's pretty easy. Like you're not gonna go outside your house and get killed right away, but this world is gonna be different. So there's a lot that goes into it. So before you even put anything in the code, there's a lot of stuff you need to think about. So I'm just gonna kind of walk through my thought process, and I'll show you how this new tool can help with that. And then if you have any questions along the way, just type it in the chat. So this is our new tool. It's called Voyage Studio. And you can see that it's broken up into 2 columns. So this right-hand column, this is going to have all of the actual stuff from the world in it, like all the locations I make and the NPCs I make. And then this left-hand side, this is a chat. So basically there's this AI agent, and it has all of the code for the game, and it knows how worlds are supposed to work. So I can give it an idea, and then it's going to put it in a format to where the game engine can understand it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to explain my idea to it really quickly. And you can see at the top, it just says Untitled World, like this is a fresh project. So I'm one of those people where as soon as I get into Google Docs, the first thing I want to do is I title my document and then I save it while it's still blank, just so I feel safe, like I have it. So I'm just going to tell it, today I am planning on making a new voyage world called Hellcrawler roguelite. And it's going to be a dungeon crawler roguelike game where you go through the 9 levels of hell. Please name the world. So now, if you watched the last video where we made a world, we really didn't say much more than this. We gave it like 1 or 2 sentences and we told it, okay, make the world, and it did it. So this time we're going to go through a very different approach. I'm going to tell it, don't build anything yet. I want to explain my idea, and I want you to ask me any questions on aspects of the world that you don't fully understand before we build anything. So first, name and save the world. So you can see here, it's thinking through what it's doing. It's gonna name the world and hopefully do nothing else. Okay, so yeah, you can see it named it. And it's already giving me some feedback here. So I only gave it a couple sentences so far, and it's kind of asking me questions, like trying to pull more information out of me. So if you were in a situation where you really didn't know exactly what you wanted, you could just start bouncing off of this. But in my case, I have an idea, so I'm just going to ignore some of these questions for now, and I'm just going to type more. And then I want to give it everything that I'm set on. And then the last like 40% or whatever that I don't care about, then I'll kind of engage with it more and then let it like give me suggestions and stuff. So one of the things that inspired me to make this type of game is that we just updated our mechanics in the game where you can travel to other realms. So like basically you can have a whole world like Earth, and then a realm would be like a whole other dimension. Like you can go to hell or go to heaven, and it's like a totally separate world. You can't walk from one to the other. The only way to get to another realm is you have to like teleport or have some kind of magical item that'll get you there, or like go in some kind of like spaceship or something. Like it has to be like a significant travel event to get you there. So these realms are separated. So I was wondering how I could use that mechanic to make a different type of game. So with Larian and a lot of other worlds, it's kind of like a Minecraft feel, like a sandbox type of thing where you're dropped in the world and you can walk around and do whatever you want to do. But I wanted to make something a little bit more structured where you have like one level of a dungeon and you can't leave that area until you accomplish something and get to the next level. So that's where I came up with the idea of like, we could do something kind of like Doom Eternal themed, like monsters and heavy metal and stuff. And that kind of fits in with the 9 levels of hell concept. Like it's already got levels built into it already. So I want to build. So I'm going to give it some of the technical constraints of what I want the world to be like. So you definitely need to have already like played the game, because if you're just like a brand new player and you don't know the relationship between regions and locations and areas and realms, you won't be able to make what you want. So I definitely recommend for new people, like don't try to make a world on your first day. Just pick a world and play it and figure out how it works, and then you can build your own thing. So I want to build a world made up of 9 different realms. And each realm only has one region. So basically my intention with this is each level is just going to be like one little adventure. Like you go through a dungeon, you beat the boss, you go to the next level. So maybe you would play for like an hour or two on each level. So I'm going to tell it name each realm after the 9 consecutive levels of hell.
Just thinking, we got to get you to be a whisper user, Benjamin.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have text to speech, but I don't want it to get like my streaming stuff in there too.
That's interesting because when you were talking earlier, like describing your kind of describing the world, I was like, oh, that could have been a really like I don't know. From my
That's
perspective, it's like could have been good prompt info right there.
yeah, that's true. So yeah, I can play with it a little bit. But yeah, another cool thing about this tool is like you can build the whole entire world just with voice to text, because you're not having to mess with the code anymore. So you can just like talk to the agent and it's gonna build it all for you. So you could like literally like go out for a walk and you're on your phone and you're just telling it what you want your world to be. Okay, let's give this a try. Each region should have a similar structure. We're going to have the same number of locations in each region. Basically, there'll be the first location where you spawn, and this is like a travel hub kind of place. Basically, I'm thinking some kind of like magic teleport circle. You just pop into the teleporter, and that's where you're at on turn 1. And then ahead of you, you see there's like this big open plain, and there's some kind of dungeon. So the dungeon can be different depending on the vibe of each level of hell. So like in one region, it could be a big network of caves, or it could be like a big burning castle, or some kind of like underwater ruin or something. So the dungeon location will have a few areas filled with enemies, and then on the far side of that location, there should be another location where the boss room is at. And each region is going to have its own boss that fits in with the themes of that region. And then once you defeat the boss, behind them, there's going to be one more location, which is going to be their treasure hoard. So in the treasure hoard, you go in and you can find some armor and weapons. And also, at the end of each region, there's going to be a magic spell book. And you read the magic spell book, and that's going to tell you the name of the next level. So I'll pause there. So I'm just gonna tell it, I don't want it to build this yet. Give me a rundown of ideas for what each region could look like and locations. So this is where you'll get to see some of the cool stuff it can do. Let's see. Realm Limbo.
So at this point, it doesn't look like it's actually like building the world. It's just sort of kind of giving you the concept
Yeah.
as a conversation at this point, right?
Yeah, we're just chatting right now. So, yeah, I made it look all pretty. So it's basically planned out like every location for the whole game already. So this is where you would pop up. You go and you fight the dungeon, you beat the boss, and then there's the vault. Let's see. So I want to ask it. Oh yeah, cool. Okay. So it's got like a little flowchart thingy here. That's cool. Okay. So let's see. I'm not super concerned about like the actual theme right now. Yeah, like I mentioned before, really I'm trying to do like show off a new mechanical system so that our players can like dig into this code and copy chunks out of it. I think maybe next week what I'll do is try to have another person come and they'll help with just like the lore and the backstory stuff. But for now, I'll just kind of build the skeleton of it. Let's see. So I just want to do a little experiment.
So one question I have for you at this point, Benjamin, like
Yeah.
like at this point, are you? I mean, because you have like this concept in place, are you more worried about the structure of the kind of game mechanics itself, or like the backstory and lore? Like, is there one aspect that you're looking at more particular right now? Because I imagine some of this stuff could change. Like one thing I saw, for instance, like it had like the different levels of like the different sins, and like one of the later ones was fraud, and I was like, that's kind of like a, I don't know, it just like fraud doesn't feel like a very like
Oh, yeah.
on theme sin to have in here. Like, is that the kind of thing that you would kind of try to weed out at this point, or are you like what specifically are you looking at this point?
So that's probably something I'll like dig into more next week because all of this stuff will be like relatively self-contained. So I can always go back and I can just tell it um, for the fraud realm, let's reskin it and come up with this new theme. And all it has to do is just change the description of these locations here. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe next week I might have Brian or somebody else come in and we could come up with like, maybe introduce some like custom characters and like a more overarching storyline. And then we could rearrange some of these levels in a way that might like fit with the story better.
Mm.
But so one other example of like a more mechanical thing that I would worry about right now is I was thinking earlier, should I have 9 levels or should there be 10 levels? Like, should there be some kind of intro level where you just kind of get dropped in and you have a minute to like search for items and like ask questions and figure out what's going on?
Yeah.
Or should you just drop in and it's like you're getting attacked right away, you know? So that's a question where like the mechanical stuff, like the number of regions you have or the number of locations you have, that's going to determine how the game actually feels. So like if you look at these at the arrival gate, you're probably not going to fight a lot. but then the dungeon and the boss room you'll be fighting, and then there's like a quiet moment at the end where you're just looting through treasure. So that's kind of like the main gameplay loop I'm looking at, and we could add more locations in. Like each level could have like some kind of tavern where the demons hang out, and you can go there and like as long as you're nice to them, you can, get a sandwich and sleep and get your health back and stuff. So do we want something like that, or do we want it to be just like you're fighting until you drop, basically, and there's no house, there's no hospital. Um, Part of what I wanted to do with this is, so like the roguelite aspect is I'm expecting you to die, but the way that the travel system works is if you know the name of a location, you can start a brand new game and you can teleport back there. So you could be like, you get all the way up to level 4, and then you die, you make a new character, and as long as you know the name of the level 4 gate, you can teleport there right away. And maybe you like backtrack to level 3 and you steal some items from here, and then you fight through level 4 and you continue on where you left off. So what I was thinking is maybe like every couple of weeks or every month, we just add like 10 more levels onto it. And we have like a leaderboard and see like who can get to level 80 first, who can get to level 100 first. Make me a flow chart of the path that a player would take through realm 1 and the possible order they could do things. So we just upgraded this to make some cool flow charts. I want to see what it can do.
While we're waiting for that to load, do you know what do you know what model we're using right now for this tool? That was one of our questions in the chat.
I actually don't know.
Oh, GLM 5.1.
Yeah, so these model selections are different from what we're currently using. We'll probably play around with them. I don't know if these are permanent or not, but
Well, the one thing that you can count on is the models are always going to be changing.
yeah. Okay, so it made a cool flowchart here. I want to see what it made. So you spawn here. You can take a minute to like kind of look around. Okay, and then it made a structure for the dungeon. So this could be cool to look at. So you have the entrance, and then it gives you a fork. And then it's came up with an idea for different rooms with some enemies and some items. And then there's like another fork. So you can see like it's drawing these little arrows. So it's kind of planning out like what the structure of the dungeon could be. So in the actual game engine, you can make what we call paths from one location to another. So we can kind of give it this like left or right fork thing, and you like travel through it in a certain order. So the cool thing is that with this tool, now that it has this picture, I can literally just type in like, okay, make that dungeon, and it'll build this structure. So when you go through the game and play, it's going to work like this. So this is really great for people who are creative and you have a lot of ideas and you know how you want your world to function, but you don't want to mess with a lot of code. So these type of flowcharts are really helpful. This is one of my favorite things to look at. So you go through the dungeon, and then you could run away, or you could go into the boss room and you fight the boss. And then you steal his stuff. Yeah, so you can see like I really didn't give it that much information, and it already has a pretty good idea. Like this is pretty close to what I was imagining. So here it kind of explains why. Oh, this is cool. Okay. So it has an idea for like certain enemies that are weak versus magic and others that are weak versus melee. So I haven't talked to it at all about building your character. So like I need to decide, do you want to be able to choose between like a warrior and an archer and a wizard? Or do you want more of like a Dark Souls kind of thing where your character's like relatively the same each time? I think in this instance, since I want to lean into the whole mechanic of like dying and restarting again, it would be interesting to have a few different classes. So like maybe you get to one floor and it's really easy for you as a warrior, and then the next floor it's like really hard, but magic would have helped you. You know, you die and then you make a new magic character and you teleport there and then you keep playing. So that's another aspect of the game that I never even thought of before, but this is a good idea.
Well, I even thought that when you talked about that first level being sort of a place to kind of get your bearings and figure stuff out, you could almost see it being like a loadout area too, where like you're choosing different
Yeah.
skills or things to have inside of your inventory that may or may not help you as you go through things,
Oh
because that
yeah,
would
that's a
change
good
things pretty
idea.
dramatically.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So okay. So we have a mechanic where you can get um you can pick up what we call traits. So like a trait can be anything, like it can be your class or like your weapon specialty or whatever. You can pick up traits during gameplay. So we could make it to where you start out as just like this bare bones character, and then there could be like a chest where you go and you open it and it's full of like wizard items and it teaches you a few spells and you get a whole mana bar and like you get the whole wizard trait. So we could do something like that, or you just pick it at the character creator. So in this case, I think I'm leaning towards letting you pick your class in the character creator just because it'll be faster and you can just jump right into fighting more. But yeah, I'm not totally sure, so we'll see. Let me tell it. Go ahead and make me some trait classes for a lot of the traditional fantasy archetypes that you would see in D&D, like warriors and wizards, and also maybe some more obscure loadouts like you might see in Dark Souls, like a samurai or a priest or a naked guy with the big club. And just put all of those in a single trait category. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Um, I don't want it to actually build it yet. Let's plan. Okay, so we'll see what it comes up with here. So yeah, it's reading the code to figure out how classes work. We'll see what it comes up with. So yeah, there are a lot of mechanical choices here, like we have different resources like your health, your mana, your stamina, stuff like that. And in Larian, what we do is we're just kind of, it's like a beginner world, so we're trying to be nice to people, and we make it to where you recover 1 health every turn. So even if you're like not super focused on the mechanical stuff, you can just kind of walk around town and talk to people and you'll gradually heal. So the next time you get into a fight, you will probably be okay. But in this world, I don't want to do that. I'm thinking what I want to do is if you get hurt, those injuries are like relatively permanent. And so you're really going to have to scrounge around and like if you have healing magic, use your healing magic, and maybe your mana doesn't recover and you can only heal yourself like 3 times and that's it. Or you find an item, or you find a helpful NPC. So let's see, it made, so it looks like it made some different archetypes. So it went with the, oh yeah, it made a lot of stuff. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop doing that. Zoom out. Okay, so we have 3 fighters. Warrior, Berserker, Naked Guy, Rogue, Samurai, Ranger. Those sound fun. Wizard, Pyromancer, Hexer, Cleric, and Paladin. Oh yeah, and then these are different ones. Blood Knight, Grave Warden, and Penitent. Yeah, these all sound cool. So if we go with the idea of like each floor has a different theme to it, that could really encourage people to not get as attached to one character, but like more readily want to switch. Like you have the ice world and you want to pick a pyromancer, you know, and then you have some other world where there's dragons everywhere and you pick dragon rider or whatever, you know.
Because your concept is like if you pass one world, or like if you die, like you don't necessarily have to go back and redo all the
Right.
previous worlds with the new character. You just start from essentially like start the most recent world or level over again.
Right.
So to your point, uh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because then you may sort of change your character for the level. Then I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is cool. So it kind of breaks down some of the attribute changes and like what weapons they would have. That's cool. Okay. 14 classes. That's a lot. Okay. So also, I don't want to put players, so like another mechanical decision here is I could leave the world exactly as it is, and it's going to have a certain level of difficulty. And that difficulty is going to vary based on the level you're at, because our dice roll system, it does take in elements into account. Like if you're fighting, you know, sea monsters and you electrocute them, it'll do extra damage. So depending on your class, you really will have some disadvantages on one floor versus another. So I want to encourage people to switch their characters, but I don't want to force them to do it every turn or every level. So one way that we could make things easier is if we add some other NPCs to help you. Now, I don't want it to be too easy. I don't want you to have like a huge party and you just plow through the whole thing. So I'm thinking of going more for like a Dark Souls vibe where like every floor has like one person who's nice. And if they die, then they die. But if you're really skilled in keeping them alive, you could accumulate a party over time. But then if you die there and you restart on floor 4, they'll all be gone. So let's see. I want to make one companion NPC for the party in each region. And this character should have some kind of narrative or thematic relationship to the theme of the current floor. Maybe there's somebody who was also imprisoned on this floor for committing a particular sin, and now they're trying to make amends for it by helping the player. So try to focus on making characters that have unique powers that would be beneficial in this type of game. For example, someone who can heal me, or blow things up, or help me jump over or fly over a really tall dungeon wall to bypass some obstacles. Things like that that are still narratively in line with the theme of the realm that they're in. Okay, so let's
I'm liking this idea of the NPC, by the way, because then it almost kind of becomes exciting to figure out like who your NPC companion is going to be for each level too.
Yeah, yeah, you might have like one person you end up really liking, and you like always stop on that floor to try and pick them up before you move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when it comes to NPCs, one thing that's really tricky is if you're gonna take somebody into your party, they need to be. So, like, one of the things about Voyage is you're actually like talking to people. So you don't want to just like min max and pick the people with the best stats, but you also want characters that are like interesting and fun to be with. Like if you have a character who's really strong, but they're super annoying and they're like always like paranoid, like they think the government's out to get them or whatever, you may not want them on your team, you know? So like one mechanism you can use to tune things is like what type of personalities do people have? And you don't necessarily want to purposefully make an annoying character. I don't think it's really a good idea just to like make people mad when they're playing your world. But still, you could have like one person who's like really heroic and outgoing, and another person needs some more encouragement. So,
So you're saying don't design Jar Jar Binks for your world is what you're
you know,
doing.
yeah, the AI is going to make enough Jar Jars on its own. You don't need to help it
You
with
don't need
that.
to help it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, but it is true though. Like characters are more interesting when they have kind of
Oh,
flaws and issues.
yeah. So here's a good example. Like this guy, he could be like really helpful and inspiring, but he's blind.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
you have to like help him around. Like here, the stairs are coming. Hold on to my elbow. Like some
Yeah, and
people
he's
might
definitely going
really
to slow
love
you
that.
down too. That's cool. Like
Yeah, like if
he might have
demons
like
are.
information you have to have, but he's slow and takes needs help. That's cool.
Yeah, so like demons might be coming and you have low health and you want to run away, but you don't want to leave them there to die. So you have to like make a final stand and try to win. That could be cool.
Yeah, this concept is coming together nice. Well, it's kind of fun too, and I don't know. Well, I'm just sitting here observing. I haven't seen this tool before. I haven't heard this world concept before, but maybe you had this in mind when you started. But I think it's kind of interesting that like the concept itself is evolving
Mhm.
um, in interesting ways that I wouldn't have thought of at first.
Yeah, so I came into it with a certain idea, but I really only had strong opinions about like 60% of it. And so the rest of it, like the story side and the narrative side, I'm gonna let it do whatever. Yeah, this is a good one too. So it says this character is like really charismatic. So if you have a bigger party and some of them do have like conflicting personalities, she could help kind of hold them together. So that could be useful in certain situations. This guy's hungry all the time. Could be funny. This guy is very greedy. This guy could try to steal your weapons. This could be rough. So some of them, I think some of them should be like a trap. Like you hire this guy and he's gonna steal your sword and leave you to die. So you know on subsequent playthroughs when you're at level 4, just don't talk to that guy. But new players won't know, they'll get tricked at least one time. Okay. Yeah, so these look pretty good. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, so it has like the utility of each character. That's cool. So this one can heal you, Horcus can heal you, Cassius can duplicate items for you. This guy can dispel enchantments at the top. These stealth guys can disguise you. That's cool. Yeah, okay.
This is cool too, where it's like the the chat is like helping you with the
Yeah.
actual game design factors in consideration, right? Like getting the right balance, making sure that there's good alignment between the characters, the NPCs, and the levels that they're doing. Like
Yeah,
this is really helpful because like this is the kind of stuff that you'd have to spend hours trying to like map out yourself and
yeah,
craft and think through. And this, um, because then what it does is it's like it's putting you in the role of being almost more of like a taste tester, and you can kind of say like, yep, more of this or less of this, add salt, take away the pepper, whatever. This,
yeah.
this,
I like this a lot.
yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, it's a big step up versus the other tool. Like, it's just gonna, you tell it what you want and it'll make it, but this is actually giving you options. Okay, so another thing I need to think about is the skills. So it already kind of mentioned different classes, and then these characters as well kind of map to the classes. So the way that skills work with Voyage is kind of tricky. Um, Generally speaking, I would say it's similar to Skyrim. Like you have a blade skill and a conjuration skill, and the more you train it, the higher it gets. But one area that is still a little bit weird is that the more skills there are in a certain domain, the more likely you are to get dice rolls and like to fail on stuff. So for example, like if you have a world where you're on like Dancing with the Stars, you might have a skill for like acrobatics and like tango and singing and all kinds of various like artistic stuff. So the game's gonna like really like be hard on you when it comes to dancing. It's like, is your dancing good? Is your choreography good? Is your singing good? Versus like a world like Larian where it's more focused on magic and combat and stuff. It doesn't care if you're a good singer or not. It's just like, oh, you're singing, okay. So the more skills you build around a certain thing, the more harder it's going to be to do that. So like another way to think of that is if you make a skill for something, you're introducing a chance to fail at that thing. So one of the weaknesses with something like AI Dungeon is you can just type in like I search for a healing potion in the chest over there, and then it gives it to you. So here we can make skills where like you have to search for water, or you have to search for food, or you have to search for medicine. Like you could get really granular with it and make it really hard. So I don't want to spend a ton of time where people are just like scrounging around in boxes looking for stuff, but I also don't want you to just be able to heal instantly. So let me tell it. Make a few skills related to medicine, survival, healing magic, and foraging for supplies. So, medicine is used to heal wounds. Healing magic will be used by priests to heal. Foraging is how you get food and water. And survival is used for shelter. Okay, so that gives me another idea. If I wanted to up the difficulty on this a little bit, one other thing I could do is right now all the difficulty is kind of concentrated in the dungeon and in the boss room. So that could potentially create a situation where the player's like slowing down the pacing of the game a lot by just like searching through like old buildings for equipment and stuff. And I don't want them to waste a lot of time doing that. I want you to kind of go fast. So I could add some environmental stuff like acid rain or like volcanic ash or whatever that hurts you if you stay outside for too long on one floor for too long. So that's where this shelter skill would come in. Like if the acid rain does come, you have a warning. Like the clouds are gathering, and in 3 turns it's going to rain, and you have to find shelter. Please help me brainstorm an environmental hazard for each floor. So this, I was saying earlier, like, I don't really want people to find a bunch of healing items, but maybe it's okay if they do, and I kind of balance it out with this, like, acid rain thing. So let's see. Making a bunch of stuff.
Maybe you're already thinking about this, but like one thing that's standing out to me too is like I like that you sort of have like a layered process to how you think about building the world. It'd be awesome if this studio tool um, provided a bit of kind of structure to building a world that
Oh, yeah.
kind of like a process or a workflow, or even just sort of the awareness to think through these things and just call out like, hey, you haven't addressed skills yet. Do you want to talk about that? Like, because
Yeah.
like right now it feels like you're driving a lot of the process, but it seems like this is something we could build into to the uh, to the instructions.
Yeah, I think we could tell it to specifically plan things in a certain order. So, there'll be some level, like some percentage of people that just don't really want to engage with the planning process at all. They just want to type whatever, and that's fine. But I think for people that really do need a guide, this would help a lot because, a lot of people don't think about how to actually make a world more difficult. Um, so for example, like this acid rain is a way to make the level more difficult. Another simple mechanical way to tune the world and make it harder is for each region, I could just make it bigger, and the distance you travel each turn is very small, and you have a chance of a random encounter each time you travel. So if you get the calculator out, I could tune it to where there's like you're guaranteed to fight 3 groups of enemies before you ever get to the boss. So you're at half health. It's like way harder than if I didn't have that mechanic. So yeah, we could give it some skills to tell people like how do you want the world to feel? And then if you want it to feel this way, here are some possible tools that we could use. I would say that that's like a very high level thing that we don't really have yet because you need to be like really experienced with the game to even put 2 and 2 together like that. But we have a lot of creators that are like really super obsessive and like know the system in and out, and they're getting good really quickly. So yeah, I think once we open this up to the public, they'll give us a lot of good feedback and we can strengthen it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so this wants to make a storm, acid rain, earthquakes, a flood, a fire. This sounds horrible. I don't know what it is.
Damage type.
River of boiling blood.
Scalding river of blood.
Yeah, this sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. Okay. So, okay. So another thing that
Someone
we
had joked that we need to make sure that the floor is lava, but I think scalding river of blood is
Oh yeah.
gonna fill that need pretty well. That's crazy.
So I'm gonna try and do something a little bit different. So we have what we call triggers, and a trigger is just like it's like scripting. So the game can read when certain things happen, and then it can inject a message into the story to push things in a certain way. So I'm gonna tell it, help me plan a system where the player, oh, I need to just talk to it. gets a clear warning 3 turns before the hazardous weather begins using triggers. So we'll see what it comes up with here. But basically, what we could do is like every time you enter a new floor, the clock starts ticking, and you only have X number of turns before it starts to rain boiling blood, you know? And then you're going to be taking 5 damage every turn. And then it's like a frantic race to get to the boss room and beat him before you burn to death. So you can have mechanics like this, but it's really important to give a heads up to your player. So we'll want to inject messages into the story to help give you a warning, like the clouds are rumbling and in a few minutes it's going to start to rain. And it looks like the rain's going to last half an hour, so you need to find a place to shelter, you know, something like that. So we don't necessarily have that system natively, so it'll be good to build our own trigger system. So that's one of the things where the flowcharts really come in handy. These are super cool, so I'll show you how that works if it makes a good flowchart for me. Okay, yeah, it's doing stuff. Okay, so, all right. So I'll just show you this real quick. So the way that triggers work is it's just text, and it's just checking certain conditions. So it's checking what level I'm in, and if I'm in a certain level, then it's going to give me a warning in the story. And then that's like the first level. And then if you've already been warned, so right here, if you're in the region and you've been warned, then it's going to escalate the weather. And then it continues escalating, you get your final warning, and then the rain actually starts, and the rain will continue until whatever condition we want, like a certain number of turns, or until you beat the boss, or whatever. So code-wise, that's what it looks like. And a lot of people don't want to mess with that code by hand. So what you can do is you can make something like this. So this is what we call a state diagram. And a state diagram, it's just a fancy way of saying it's a flowchart. So the flowchart just plans all of the different possibilities that can happen in the game. And then you can tell it, once you have it planned out, the system knows the code for triggers. So it's only putting stuff in the flowchart that's possible with triggers. So if I tell it to now, it would build all of these things. So I'll just walk through it real quick. So you enter the new realm, nothing's happening. After X number of turns, it fires a warning, and then the next turn it escalates, and then the next turn it escalates again, and then the next turn the rain starts. And now it can branch off. So there's this repeating cycle near the bottom here. Every turn that you're not in the shelter, you get damaged. And then if you get in shelter, you don't get damaged. And then after whatever condition we want to specify, the rain will go away. And then the cycle could restart again. So one of the big obstacles we've had for a while is that people want to make their own mechanics, and they want to make worlds that feel different and have unique rules like this, but they didn't want to type all the code in there. So with this one, we now have our own tool where all you got to do is look at the flowchart, and I can make tweaks to it. So for example, I could add a case into the flowchart where if I beat the boss, the bad weather also stops. And make sure it gives some epic narration about the sunlight breaking through the clouds as I defeat the demon and stand over his body.
Yes, hero pose.
So now it's going to modify the flowchart and oh, I think it's done already. Cool. Okay, so you can see this is more complicated now. Um, we have the same thing on the left side. There's the warning, it escalates, the weather starts. But now in the center of the screen, you can see there's this branching path where if the boss gets defeated at any point, then the weather goes back to being good. So you can keep adding more weird conditions to this, like make it to where the rain doesn't hurt you if you're a vampire, or make it to where it doesn't rain on Wednesdays, like whatever you want. So you can make the mechanics of the world feel like how you expect it to feel with this type of story.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I think I have enough for like a first draft. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell it build everything we have planned so far. So this will take a couple minutes, but that'll be a good place to pick up next time. So next time I'll kind of look at everything we have, and then maybe we could even jump in and start playing the world and see if there's some obvious gaps. And then we could just start adding in like, oh yeah, we forgot about like what happens when you level up, or like are there any special abilities, or like we haven't added any items yet to the world. So the next session will be just like building out a lot more stuff and fleshing it out. And then the week after that, we'll just polish it and get it to where it actually is not super buggy. And then it'll be done. And then once you get into the beta, you can play it.
This is awesome. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, this is fun. This is a good tool.
Yeah, I've never really thought about um, I've never really thought about this idea of like using the creator tool to help plan what you're going to build, but like kind of seeing you walk through it, it makes a lot of sense. There's a world where we could, have it being built on the side and you're kind of iterating and copying over, but I think um, as many of us have learned from building with AI in code, it's always better to start with a really clear plan before you start asking it to
Yeah.
build out a whole bunch of complexity. So this is really cool, and I hope that I hope like one of the kind of benefits of this, or maybe one of the I'm going to call it a consequence of this, is like we start talking more as like a creator community on good planning and good kind of planning techniques. Like as I called out, like even just watching, I think seeing your flow and your process makes sense, and it may there'll probably be some best practices that emerge, like start with this and then you do these things. I don't know. This I can tell that this tool is going to have a big impact on the way that worlds are built and the way that we think about building worlds. So I think this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this will help a lot of people be able to do things like bigger and faster. Because I remember my first two worlds I made were by hand, and it took me like 30 hours to do it. And it was great because I learned the ins and outs of the system.
Yeah,
But, if you have a job or whatever, like you don't have time for all that. You can think about the idea at work, and then when you get home, you just type it in real quick, and then it'll make it for you.
yeah. Oh, wow, this is cool. So it's all starting to come together.
Go. Yeah, it's making all the realms here. Hasn't made any locations yet. But yeah, this will like make pictures. We can decorate it next time. Make it look scary.
Well, another good reason to go through this planning phase. Um, we were talking about it in the chat. The creator tool does consume uh, AI usage,
Yeah.
and obviously that's a limited resource right now, and I think it's something that creators will want to preserve as much as possible. But I think having a really good planning session is likely going to be one of the best ways to preserve usage. Because even though you're making calls with the AI to plan, as we're seeing, like that, this when you said build this world, it's taking a while, and it's processing a lot of tokens, it's writing a lot of tokens,
Mm.
and the usage of that is going to be much higher. So having a strong planning session is going to help with usage
Yeah.
savings as well.
Yeah, it does take a lot, but one thing I was thinking about today is like if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons with your friends and you're the DM, you have to spend hours planning each session. Like you might spend more time planning it than people actually play it. Your friends play for 2 hours and that's it. And then next week
For
you got to
sure.
plan everything. But there's people that are still playing Worlds from like 8 months ago. You build it and you polish it and you take care of it, and like hundreds of people will play your world. So you can get a lot of value out of it and a lot of interaction
Yeah.
out of it if you make it good from the start.
Yeah. I agree. This is really cool. Awesome. Um, we do need to give a shout out to someone's brother Joel who's having a
Yeah,
birthday.
happy
Happy birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday to Joel. Cool. Was so are we do we want to watch this to finish up, or are we going to come back to this next week? Are we ready to sign off, or is there something else we should show here?
Um, I think GLM is kind of slow. Last time I did this, it took like 10 minutes. So we'll just
So
pick it up on the next time.
okay, and through the magic of video editing, it's the next time people see it, it'll be all done.
Yep.
Very cool.
Okay. Thanks, Devin.
Yeah, thank you, and obviously thank you to everyone who joined us for the live stream today. Appreciate the questions, appreciate the discussion, and both around the creation experience. By the way, we lots of great feedback from people watching. It really seems like some positive feedback on this new interface, and people are looking forward to it. Um, Obviously, questions. We continually get questions about usage, and I think it's worth reiterating that usage is one of those things that's going to continue to be optimized. We've already optimized it several times in the beta phase. I think we're somewhere around like 4x more usage per tier than we started at. Like I think it's progressing rather quickly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep pushing on that, making sure that we can give everyone the most amount of AI compute uh, at each tier, including the free tier. We're not going to leave the free tier out of this. So it's worth. I know we talk about it a lot, but it's worth reiterating because it is one of the top
Yeah.
questions that we get about Voyage and creation and its impact on that. So yeah, appreciate everyone's participation today.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Okay, talk to y'all later.